Hey guys, Davkid here, and today we'll be going over the hybrid map King's Row as Lucio. So to start things off, our second healer went Widowmaker in the hopes of getting an entry pick. An entry pick is essentially a kill on the enemy that will give your team an easier time of going through the choke point. She gets a kill on the Soldier 76, and he's the main source of the enemy's damage. So knowing this, I amp up speed on the point so we can pressure the enemy team to back off and begin capping. During this fight, I have to keep in mind that I'm the solo healer, so I need to stay on my heal aura until our Widowmaker switches back to Ana and she arrives onto the point. Since the current meta consists of 3 to 4 tanks, you're better off focusing on shooting Reinhardt's shield. It may seem insignificant, but the 64 damage per burst adds up. Plus it adds accuracy to your stats. So right now, the fight's pretty back and forth. We're losing a couple of players, they're losing a couple of players. But the thing about the first point in King's Row is that the attackers have an advantage in that they spawn closer to the point. So let's say both teams lose 2 players. The attackers will still have the advantage if they're able to quickly regroup, and you as a Lucio are the key to making this work when you get everyone to the front lines faster. So now our Soldier and Roadhog just got 2 kills. So once again, I'm going to stay on my speed aura so we can pressure the enemy team away so we can cap. Also notice how our Roadhog takes advantage of the speed boost and goes to the enemy's back line to distract the remaining players, leaving Reinhardt and Ana by themselves on the point. I just want to point out something I did wrong here. I probably should have stayed on speed to help the Ana strafe away from the Reinhardt charge, but because she died, I get earth shattered. But in the process, I'm telling my team to focus down the Reinhardt that's in our back line. It may seem unnecessary to call this out for the team, but you have to assume that they're focused on what's going on in front of them, especially at lower ranks. Alright, so we've captured the point. Now what? You're gonna stay on speed and escort that sleigh like the support you are. But seriously guys, try to stay on speed aura while moving the payload. For one, your second support will need the heals to build their ult more than you. Plus, the card is like a baby Lucio healing those around it. And last but not least, it can help your team pick off those enemies that are trying to back away from their forward spawn. This is especially true for Watchpoint Gibraltar after you've captured the first point and going into the hangar phase, but that's for a different video. So this part of the map can get a bit hectic when it comes to ults. So I'm going to try to dissect what's going on. So first things first, our soldier just called out that his ult is ready. And I'm also assuming that Ana has her ult since I've been letting her get most of the heals, and she hasn't ulted in a while. And since I'm almost at my ult, I'm thinking that I should pay more attention to the soldier during this fight that's coming up. And remember guys, always let your team know what your ult's at, especially if it's at 90%, just so you could coordinate a push. So our Reinhardt starts off the fight with an Earth Shatter, stunning a D.Va and a Zarya. Next, our D.Va dives into the enemy team while bionated by Ana. So she can't heal. So at this moment I'm thinking that I need to get my ult up for D.Va right now. Luckily, both Reinhardts stun each other. Wait, did that D.Va also get pinned in the process? What? And I focus down the stun Reinhardt. Why? Because I'm about 7% away from getting my ult up and every shot counts. So I'm gonna shoot both the closest and easiest target since I need my ult to protect that D.Va. And while I'm so close to getting my ult, Ana nanos our soldier. Now the pressure's on even more to get my ult up, especially since the soldier is now going Rambo into the enemy team. By the way guys, if you're trying to get on a higher platform to ult on, you sort of do a mini jump when you press your Q. So what I do here is jump and then ult, giving me a tiny jump just to get right on top of the payload. So for this ult, just like every other ult I do, I'm simply just trying to get everyone in my line of sight so that everyone can get my shield. We end up wiping the team, but we used many ults during the fight. And honestly, at least for competitive play, that's okay for the attacker's side. It was worth it if we could gain a point in the process. Now if we didn't get anything done, now that's a problem. Remember to always keep tabs on anyone you lost during the fight. They'll probably need a speed boost. Our Roadhog died right before the end of that fight, and he spawned right before we captured the point, so he has a long way back. So help that fat little piggy. No, he even said thank you. So this is where our team becomes discombobulated. I think the biggest reason for this happening is the lack of communication going on, plus the fact that we don't have any of our ults up. At the very least, we could have tried to coordinate a dry push, which is starting off a team fight in the hopes of the enemy team using some of their ults while you use none, giving you an ult advantage for the next fight. Depending on your rank, this might not work effectively, so it's a risky endeavor if everyone's not on the same page. My positioning here is pretty bad. Right now, I don't have anyone in my aura as the enemy Ana nanos Reinhardt. This means I'm not able to speed my team away from the fight. Thankfully, the Reinhardt didn't kill me and I was able to boop him back into the backline, prolonging the fight. My team is scattered as well, Roadhog is just spawning in, our D.Va's pushing forward while getting bionated by Ana, dying in the process. It's just a mess right now. So this is a good example of why you should learn audio cues for this game. First, I hear that our Reinhardt's charging. Okay, so everyone's heard that before. But then I also hear that he's grabbed the enemy Reinhardt with him. Using those cues and keeping a close eye on our Reinhardt's silhouette, I'm able to get a sense of where he's going. I don't immediately go and help him since I'm trying to get free shots at the Roadhog since he can't heal while ulting. But once he gets bubbled by Zarya, I then focus my attention on Reinhardt since he can't kill the enemy that he pinned. So to help him out, I first speed him out to our backline while also trying to boop the enemy Reinhardt off the map. I screw it up, but at least I was able to keep our teammate alive while also disengaging. So now a couple of our teammates just got their ults up and we're trying to coordinate a push. I speed our Ana and Roadhog to the front line so we could get ready. Our D.Va wants us to push in after she boosts in with her ult. The only problem is that the enemy D.Va just did the same thing, so both teams have to back off. While regrouping with my team, another fight erupts, so let's see how this goes down. So I hear the enemy Zenyatta ulting. When I hear this, I immediately start paying attention to the progress on my ult. I'm now focused on trying to get as much heals and damage done so I could build it faster and save my team. An amped up heal currently heals for 36 HP per second, and since it lasts for 3 seconds, that's 108 HP. And if you can manage to get 5 people into your aura, that's a potential 540 health. This is huge when trying to build your ult, but you need to learn when to take advantage of the amp and not randomly spam it during a fight. I'll show you what I mean. Here, the enemy Zenyatta is in the middle of his Transcendence. Then the enemy Zarya gets aggressive and uses her Graviton Surge, grabbing 3 people in the process. Our soldier and 2 tanks, both of which can protect the soldier. And since they're both using their defenses, no one's taking damage, so I'm holding on to my amp until I see damage being taken. While I amp it up and shoot at the enemy Reinhardt, I'm able to build up 7% of my ult within 3 seconds. You should always be looking to take advantage of these situations. But why don't I immediately ult? Well, our soldier's nano boosted and is being protected by D.Va's defense matrix. We also just killed their Reinhardt, so now there's no shield to block our soldier's nano boosted shots. And a well placed ult by Reinhardt, we win the fight without having to use my ult. So now I'm just escorting the cart while also speed boosting my team so they could pick off any stragglers. Here I forget my own rule on staying on speed aura for the team since my ult's ready. I should be letting my Ana get all the heals to build up her ult faster. Plus my speed boost would have allowed my team to move up towards the enemy spawn points so we get the drop on them. I see that Reinhardt's pushed up further than his team, so I try to take advantage of this and boop him off the map. But I keep on screwing these up this game. But remember to always try to get the height advantage on a Reinhardt so he doesn't simply block your attack with a shield. I get bionated by Ana, so I'm going to stay in the back line and pay passively until the debuff wears off. Coming up is a reason why staying in the back line can sometimes make you unaware of the enemy's positioning. Currently, my vision's blocked from the walls to my right and from the payload, and the only thing I can see is Reinhardt's shield. I then hear the Reinhardt charging, and assume he's going to pin our Reinhardt since he's a few feet away from him, so I panic ult. But while trying to get a line of sight on everyone for my ult, I see that Reinhardt screwed up his charge and hit a wall. At first, it seems as though it was a bad sound barrier, but the enemy Reinhardt ended up using his Earth Shatter while everyone was still shielded. Don't get me wrong though, it was still a poorly timed ult from my end. Our D.Va just ulted, so once again I amp up my speed to pressure the enemy. Notice that Reinhardt has his back exposed to us so he could block the ult. When this happens, you should immediately call this out to your team so they could focus him down. So it looks as though we're winning this fight. D.Va caught both of their supports with her ult, and we killed the Reinhardt. But the enemy Roadhog manages to get a triple kill, so I'm forced to back off.
Push off. Gonna hear the game, boys.
I accidentally jump in front of our Roadhog and get hooked in because of this. I should have stood behind him. While respawning, keep tabs on everyone and see if any teammates died. Just wait for them to respawn so you can amp them up to the front lines.
Oh, you hear that?
Why is the payload stopped?
I thought I woke up the signatory.
Audio.
For the beginning of this fight, I play passively and hold on to my amp until someone on our team opens up with a play. This doesn't happen, and Ana ends up ulting the enemy Reinhardt, so I amp speed everyone out. Remember to leave your speed aura on for the majority of the time if you're planning on disengaging your team from a major threat. Obviously, there'll be times where you want to heal, probably when Ana bionades your team since it doubles your passive healing rate, but you need to keep in mind that it also doubles hers as well, and she's a way better healer than Lucio. So we've pretty much wiped their team, and now we're just focusing on the players coming onto the point one by one.
Got it.
We end up getting 3 points for the round. Now it's time to defend.
Hey, good shit, boys. What the fuck?
My playstyle as a defending Lucio is very passive, and because of this, I'm able to pay more attention to what's going on around me and relay this to my team. For example, attacking teams on King's Row like to run either a Hanzo or a Widow on the first point. Since what you're mostly doing on defense is just spamming a choke point, press tab every once in a while to see if there's a Widow or any other hero that can throw off your team, like a Bastion, for instance. And while they don't have a Widow, they do have a Roadhog who's also a good hero at getting entry picks with his hooks, and he does just that to our Roadhog. And as a team, we make a huge mistake and funnel into the hotel. I want to think that it was because I amped up my speed and they thought it was time to get aggressive for some reason, but yeah, this is a bad idea because we just lost a huge damage dealer who excels at close range combat. Now if we had a Junkrat or Pharah on our team, this wouldn't be such a bad idea since they both do well at enclosed areas. Now remember what I said about the attackers having the spawn advantage on the first point? Well, it's applying here and we need to back out. As we're backing off, I'm trying to maintain my amped up movement speed by constantly jumping. This is also called bunny hopping. It's a great skill to learn, especially in situations like these where you need to disengage from the enemy. I'll put a link to my tutorial in the description. Since our Reinhardt was still spawning, we decided not to re-engage the enemy since their Roadhog can easily hook one of our players, which would then stagger their spawn and cause them to end up all the way back to our last point. I personally think it's a good habit to call out when a teammate spawns, just to remind the team that the enemy's currently having a numbers advantage and we shouldn't engage them. Also, you might want to call out the hero's role and not their name. For example, if we had an Ana and Reinhardt just spawning in, I would probably call out, "Hey, we got a healer and tank on the way." So one thing I'm neglecting to do here is spam the choke at all times. For some reason, I was constantly looking at her flank. Don't get me wrong, that's a good thing to do as a support, but for the enemy's comp, there's no real flanker that would use that route.
No anymore. I need to contest.
Our Ana calls for an aggressive push, and while I think it's not the best call since our Roadhog just died, I still amp up our team onto the payload. Our soldier begins his ult, but because of my speed boost, he accidentally moves ahead of Reinhardt and gets pinned in the process. Taking advantage of that kill, the enemy begins to push in and snowball as they kill our remaining players as I try to back out. During this moment, I wasn't focused on pressing tab to look at my team's spawn times, but I should have noticed my team's silhouettes as I turned around. At least 3 people have spawned, which means that I made the mistake of staying alive for far too long, staggering my spawn. This makes it harder for my team to contest the next push since we'll be down a man. So while I was respawning, we switched up our team comp a bit, and because of this, we end up not contesting the second point, so they get the cap on it. We're all playing passively, trying to break the enemy Reinhardt's shield before they break ours.
Roadhog no for a few seconds.
Eventually, our Roadhog manages to get a hook on the Reinhardt, and from there, we push them out, winning the fight. We then set up a forward hold so we can harass the enemy at their spawn and keep them away from the cart. While doing this hold, you probably want to remind your team to watch out for any of the enemy's ults, and have your speed amp ready in case anything goes wrong. We decided to not fully commit to this hold and back off, staying closer to the cart. Remember guys, during these holds, you should be focusing on the enemy's movements and hold on to your amp. For instance, as I'm making my way to the cart, I'm paying close attention to the Reinhardt's movement. The enemy Lucio could easily speed him up, giving him an easier time landing an Earth Shatter. Although they don't end up doing this, it's always good to keep this in mind so that you can act quickly and speed your team out of harm's way. I do end up using my amp speed, but only after our Reinhardt gets hooked. We soon end up trading 2 for 2 after both divas use their ults. But we have to remember, this section of the map is similar to the first point where the attackers spawn closer and can regroup faster, so I need to pay attention to when our other 2 players spawn so I can bring them back to the fight quickly. I also need to juggle between speeding and healing since our Ana was the one that was picked off in the last fight. If you're feeling overwhelmed having to switch between healing and speed because your Ana is nowhere near you and everyone's calling out for heals, just tell everyone to back up and regroup. And remember to prioritize speeding your Ana back to the fight since she's a better healer than Lucio, especially when it comes to healing tanks. So let's go back a bit and go over why I used this sound barrier. When the soldier ults, our Reinhardt shield hasn't even cracked yet, which means it's still above 1000 health. Now I probably should have ulted here, once I saw the cracks on the shield. Now I'm not saying that your ults always have to be perfectly timed, but just learning how to hold on to your ult can sometimes make or break a team fight. Just look at the way the enemy Lucio is using his sound barrier. He's using it reactively after his team gets pulled in by Zarya's ult, but because of the timing of his ult, their Reinhardt and Roadhog are able to use their ultimates, which temporarily allows their team to have a numbers advantage against us. I noticed that both of their supports are in the front line, so I try and punish them, but I end up getting slept and bionated by Ana in the process. There was nothing I could really do at this point, so I just end up dying to the Lucio. While I'm dead, my team's able to grab a few picks and contest the cart, forcing the enemy to play passively. We even get their diva to waste her ult.
With it all.
Unfortunately, our Tracer does get killed by Roadhog and they begin to slowly push in. And since our Reinhardt shield's low and our diva is not near the cart to use her defense matrix, I decide to move to the back line and stay on my heal aura. We slowly lose more and more players and my only option is to contest the cart and try to stall it out so my team can spawn in. I'm not able to hold the point for long and they end up having a faster time than us. So let's see how we do on attack again.
I got pushed away.
Complete.
Didn't have shit. Both coming.
Alright, so we have a minute and a half to capture at least 1 point. And just like the last attack phase, our second healer goes Widow. This is a high risk strat, and it doesn't pay off this round since they went from having a soldier to now having a Symmetra, who usually sticks to the backline. This means Widow's going to have a tough time getting an entry pick on tanks, and those sticking to the back of the point. Now we're in an awkward situation where we're forced to stay back, slowly heal up while we wait for our tanks to respawn, and for our Widow to switch back to Ana. We now have a minute to cap, and our Widow switched to Ana, so now we can play more aggressively due to her burst healing. Since their biggest threat is Roadhog, we move to the right of the statue in hopes of avoiding his hook. Unfortunately, D.Va goes the opposite way and gets caught out because of it. So while D.Va is hooked, their team is so focused on killing her that we're able to focus down the enemy Reinhardt, who screwed up his charge and ended up getting both stunned and hooked. Once we finish him off, I notice that Symmetra is playing aggressively and is on our McCree. Also take note that Symmetra's range on her primary fire was slightly increased with her rework, so it's important that you boop her away from her target. I get her away from the McCree and I tell the team to focus her down, and that's exactly what they do. For the rest of this fight, I'm staying on my healing aura. The main reason being that I want to get my ult up quickly so we can contest the point, just in case we get overwhelmed. During this fight, the Roadhog begins to ult from the hotel on the left. At first, it looks as though he's only using his ult to knock us away from the point, not doing much damage, which is true, but as soon as he turns the corner, he begins to quickly melt our McCree. While this is happening, our Ana's busy trying to heal me, and it looks as though she didn't notice McCree's health. Because of this, and the fact that we only have 20 seconds left to cap, I use my sound barrier. Now as soon as I began my ult, our Reinhardt was able to get a pin on the Roadhog. So you could rate this sound barrier from two perspectives. For solo queue, I believe that it was a justified ult since I wasn't able to predict the charge, nor was it communicated beforehand. But if I was on a coordinated team where everyone was communicating their next move, this would have been a pretty bad ult. As soon as we capture the point, we're able to get a pick on their Reinhardt. This is going to give us a great advantage since now their Reinhardt must spawn near the last point. Since it's overtime, I definitely need to babysit the cart, but I'm still going to stay on speed aura for the majority of the time.
My ult will give us some space.
I think I'm gonna go ult. They have no Reinhardt.
Word, I'm gonna ult you.
Our diva goes ahead of us in ults, allowing us to push the cart without any issues. We even managed to kill their diva.
Can't just wasted it.
Our diva ends up dying, but our Roadhog manages to get a good hook on their Winston. Plus, our Ana just got a really good sleep dart on their Reinhardt, which means they have no shield for 5 seconds, and our Reinhardt takes full advantage of this and earth shatters. We even got their Lucio to use his ult.
Shit, let's go. Down cart, down cart, down cart.
That Lucio's can't kill him though.
Since we won that team fight, we're able to move the cart without any pressure from the enemy. Another fight breaks out as their diva ults onto the cart. I amp speed everyone as I back away. I then get earth shattered, and because of this, I'm unable to see what's happening in front of me. While I'm stunned, I'm looking at our kill feed to see if we have an advantage or not. We do get 2 picks, but now there's a Winston and diva in our backline, so I call them out.
Stay on, guys, stay on the.
Rein's one.
Okay guys, so I'm close to having my ult, and I need to keep this in mind while we're in overtime. When things start to go downhill, I need to quickly react and use my sound barrier to contest the cart. Let's see what happens during this fight. Notice the starting positions of our McCree and diva. McCree is trying to get a sneaky high noon, while diva's preventing their Winston from gaining any high ground. With this in mind, I know for a fact that I'm going to need an amped up speed boost just in case either one of them gets out of position. But for now, I'm staying on the heal aura for a quick ult buildup. It's important to be reactive during overtime. For instance, as soon as our diva gets hooked by their Roadhog, I immediately amp speed her out to the backline since she's been bionated. I try playing aggressively on the cart since I'm close to having my sound barrier, but I get knocked away from Winston and see that he's also knocking everyone else away. I end up ulting as soon as it's available so I can keep the overtime meter full. And while ulting, I see that McCree needs help, so I climb on top of the cart to get vision on him, so I could give him a delayed shield. Winston ends up knocking us back again, but our Reinhardt's able to use his Earth Shatter and we follow up with 2 kills. I then begin to focus on harassing Ana, since she's worrying about healing her team and not paying attention to me. But as soon as I see their diva ulting, I focus on getting everyone to the cart with my speed aura. I then see that Reinhardt's using his shield to block the ult, so I go back to healing. We end up getting 3 more kills and we pressure the remaining players.
Oh, dang, I was gonna hook her. Sorry.
Break your Rein shield.
Their team now switched to a Mei in order for them to contest the last point. She initiates a fight with us by walling off our Reinhardt. My first thought was to speed him out of there since he got bionated. But since he's also walled off, he's not going anywhere, so the team would be better off if I just stood on my heal aura. Their Reinhardt gets nano boosted, so my main goal here is to get into position and knock him as far away as possible to negate his ult. I'm also going to focus on shooting his shield since I see cracks on it. We're able to break his shield, but he ends up earth shattering us. Luckily, their Reinhardt charged our Roadhog and not me, so I end up getting launched into the air. I take advantage of this position and I'm able to get 4 people in my aura and use my amped up heal, giving me a quick 10% charge on my ult. We also have to keep in mind that their Reinhardt charged too deep into our backline and died as a result. Now this means that the enemy doesn't have a shield to protect them, and this forces their Lucio to use his sound barrier on himself and Mei, which are non-threats during this fight. My sound barrier is almost up, and I'm making sure I have vision of at least 1 tank in order to maximize its effectiveness. I see diva, but she gets walled off, blocking my line of sight of her, but she then boosts upward, allowing her to get shielded. Okay, so even though I haven't gotten a single environmental kill this entire match, I know for a fact that I can kill this Mei once she's out of her ice block. But while I'm waiting, I'm constantly moving around since there's still enemies behind me that are joining the fight. Never stand still, guys, especially as Lucio. So it looks like they have a Bastion now, so it's best if I just stay on my heal aura. I also noticed that our diva got nano boosted and is focusing him down, so I help her out. We're able to get Bastion, and our Roadhog ends up knocking back the remaining enemies with his ult, allowing us to capture the point. Alright, so next up is the game deciding round. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so the enemy team has about 2.5 minutes to capture 3 points. We now also have a Mei in our team's composition. This is a good pick since Mei has the ability to stall and displace enemies with her ice wall. I don't do it much here, but when Mei does end up walling off a single enemy, Lucio should be using his speed aura so everyone can easily close in on that one hero. But for now, I'm just staying on my heel and spamming the choke so I can get my ult built up.
Like shield region.
I'm also keeping an eye on the sniper perch on top of their spawn, just in case they switch to Widow. Our Roadhog wants to go near the choke with our Reinhardt, so he can have an easier time getting a hook. He manages to catch D.Va, but he isn't able to finish her off. He then gets hooked by their Roadhog, and because of this, the attackers follow up by going through the choke. I then see that both our Mei and Roadhog desperately need heals. If my Amp It Up was available, I would have sped them out of there so they could have gotten to some cover easily and healed up. But since it's still on cooldown, healing would be the best option in my opinion, especially if Ana was able to bio-nade the both of them. We managed to wall off their Reinhardt, so we focus him down. But while I'm shooting at him, I'm also paying attention to the soldier that's on the top left. I'm calling him out to my team, but the only hero that would be able to really deal with him is D.Va, and she's dead, so we need to back off or risk dying. But then the Roadhog ults, and begins to shred our Ana. Luckily, she lands a sleep dart on him which keeps her alive, but with low health. But what do you do in this situation as Lucio? Do you heal, or do you speed? Well, my amp isn't ready yet, so it's best if I just speed her into the hotel where there's a health pack. I also noticed that our Reinhardt's on his way, and the enemy is about to contest the point. So when my amp is ready, I use both my heal and speed for those specific teammates. Remember that Amp It Up lasts for 3 seconds, so don't be afraid to use both songs throughout its casting time. For example, I begin this amp healing Ana, and I stay on the heal for about 2 seconds until I know that she's either grabbed a health pack or bio-naded herself. I then use the last second of my amp for Reinhardt, speeding him into the front line, and because we sped him up, he was able to get to the point before their Reinhardt can, and is able to earth shatter uncontested. I was planning on holding my sound barrier for this fight, but their soldier and D.Va end up ulting, and our Reinhardt's not able to heal. So when I begin my ult, I go into cover to stay away from D.Va's ult, and peek around the corner to give that Reinhardt a shield.
I got him.
We end up wiping their team, but I need to remember that our Mei died during the fight, so I need to track her position and speed her back.
Fuck myself. Okay.
Understood.
Use Mario 50% on shatter.
I'm ready to initiate self-destruct sequence.
Be careful over there. I don't know.
As I'm amping her back to the point, Roadhog gets a hook on me, but our Mei pulls off a really good wall to save me. Thank you, Mei. The rest of their team begins to contest the point, as their Reinhardt gets nano boosted and Lucio uses his sound barrier. Our Ana manages to put Reinhardt to sleep, but our own Reinhardt ends up charging him and dying in the process. Since we now don't have a shield, we get earth shattered. I tried my best to push Reinhardt away, and he soon focuses on shielding our D.Va's ult. Reinhardt eventually goes back onto the point, and leaves his healers in our backline. In my opinion, there's no point in fighting these two, especially when there's bigger threats to deal with on the point. Once again, my main goal here is to build up my ult quickly, since there's only 20 seconds left.
One hit behind you guys. Behind you guys. I know, one hit.
I'm very weak.
Roadhog on the left hand, right? Roadhog half health.
I almost had shatter.
We're now in overtime, and we begin to lose players one by one. Mei uses her Blizzard and is nano boosted, so with that in mind, I use my sound barrier in the hopes that we'll stay alive long enough for our team to respawn. I begin to focus their soldier since he ulted and isn't paying attention to me. And I do manage to whittle down his health, but their Ana begins to out-heal my damage, so I die in the process. The team is now calling for a reset, or in other words, to regroup, so we let the enemy take the first point. Since I saw our D.Va and Mei die, I'm going to stay at our spawn so I can speed them back to the team. But remember, since it's overtime, there's an additional 2 seconds added to spawn timers. Unfortunately, our Mei spawned as soon as they capped the point, which means she was sent all the way back to our furthest spawn room. So once again, I'm just going to keep an eye on Mei's positioning and speed her back when she's close enough.
Bayana, you're alone.
Waiting for our man. Oh, okay. I didn't
Jerk
know
chicken, you're alone with half health. Jerk chicken.
I'm good. Don't worry.
Alright, so we're all grouped up and ready to fight. At first, I'm sticking to the backline and staying on my heel while everyone's bio-naded. making sure everyone's topped off. As soon as I see our maze wall go up, I'm assuming she's caught someone, so I switch to my speed aura, but holding onto my amp. Then their diva begins her ult, so I speed boost everyone away. Looking back at this, we probably could have just positioned behind Reinhardt so we could shield it. We re-engage, and the enemy team gets aggressive, using both an Earth Shatter and their sound barrier. We lose our diva, and our Roadhog gets hooked. I'm able to boop their Roadhog away, and we're able to finish them off. We end up getting 3 kills, and our Mei uses her Blizzard, allowing us to pick off the remaining enemies.
It's just super shit.
Check this out. I am on fire.
And we end up winning the match. Thanks for watching, guys. If you could please subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with the channel, so if you guys have any suggestions or questions, please leave it in the comments. Have a nice day.